Julian Assange has given us the gift that just keeps on giving. WikiLeaks has just given us everything we could ever possibly hope for. And now they've given us some really, really good stuff. Okay, according to cables released by WikiLeaks, the European Union doesn't think that the United States and NATO can win the war in Afghanistan. In fact, they've set a timeline for anything changing. Basically, the European Union has said to them they want out because they don't think that they can win. Herman Van Rompuy, or whatever, the president-designate, told the U.S. ambassador to Belgium this: Europe is doing it, and we will go along out of deference to the United States, but not out of deference to Afghanistan. No one believes in Afghanistan anymore, but we will give it to 2010 to see results. If it doesn't work, that will be it, because it is the last chance. And if a Belgian gets killed, it would be over for Belgium right then. NATO and the U.S. have sustained heavy losses in the 9-year conflict. And thus far, there seems to be no one is gaining any ground in Afghanistan. And frankly, the European Union is tired of it. This year in Afghanistan, 670 foreign soldiers have been killed. Now, this is according to iCasualties.org, an independent source for casualties. Now, this is an increase from 521 last year. No one is gaining any ground. In a first, a news media outlet has been hit by the WikiLeaks scandal. Now, according to U.S. Embassy cables, the U.S. government is accusing Al-Jazeera of recently altering its news coverage in order to favor the government of Qatar, where Al-Jazeera is home-based. Al-Jazeera denies the claim, and this is what they said in an official statement on Sunday. This is the U.S. Embassy's assessment, and it is very far from the truth. Despite all the pressure Al Jazeera has been subjected to by regional and international governments, it has never changed its bold editorial policies, which remain guided by the principles of a free press. Honestly, I've been reading Al Jazeera every day for over a year, and personally, I haven't seen any change in their editorials, to be perfectly honest. Switching now to Venezuela. The U.S. Embassy in Caracas, which is sending cables to Washington, is saying that they think the Chavez government is stealing money from the public health system. However, in their documents, everything that they're quoting is from anti-Chavez sources. There's no pro-Chavez sources. There's no independent sources. They're taking them all from anti-Chavez media outlets, which are frequently the ones they themselves are funding. Right now, they're also calling Cuba and Venezuela the axis of mischief. They're sending cables saying that there's going to be a Cuban takeover of the Venezuelan government, which could not be any more effing ridiculous. It seems that the real main concern is the cooperation between the Cuban people and the Venezuelan people. So basically what they're afraid of is Latin American solidarity. Well, I'm not surprised. If I was an imperialist warmonger looking to control a continent, I'd be afraid of that too. The documents also clearly indicate to step up anti-Chavez sentiment, that it's necessary because the Chavez government is doing too well. They're basically admitting to wanting to make anti-Chavez propaganda because they can't knock this guy down. Perfect. You've basically admitted you're a bunch of liars. It has also been released that earlier this year, Russia did not invade Georgia, as according to every other source. And contrary to what the United States says, Russia did not invade Georgia. And not only that, not only now can we prove that that's not what happened, that Georgia actually invaded Russia, we now know from the cables that the U.S. openly lied when they said Russia did. The cables revealed that the U.S. Embassy knew that Georgia was sending troops to the disputed area where the secessionists are, and they knew that they were sending troops there deliberately to start a fight. According to what it says in the New York Times, The cable contained no evidence that the Ostian attacks after the ceasefire had actually occurred, and played down the only independent account, which came from military observers in Taskhin Valley, from the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. In a revelation from the WikiLeaks cables that absolutely blows my mind, the defense minister for Lebanon advised Israel on how to fight and destroy Hezbollah in the Operation Cast Lead. It's astounding. The Lebanese defense minister basically sold out his own Muslim brothers. The defense minister's name was Elias Murr, and he sent messages to the United States kind of telling them to advise Israel not to bomb any of the Christian areas because that would turn public opinion against them. He pretty much said, go and attack other Muslims, but don't touch the Christians because that would be bad press. This is what it said according to the U.S. cable. Murr told us that Israel would do well to avoid two things when it comes for Hezbollah. One, it must not touch the Blue Line or the UNSCR 1701 areas, as this will keep Hezbollah out of these areas. Two, Israel cannot bomb bridges and infrastructures in the Christian areas. Well, I guess at this point, Elias Murr can go to hell. December 26, 2009, Yemen sent messages to the U.S. asking them to deny the use of strikes against the fictional Al-Qaeda bases, which were actually aimed at the indigenous population, fighting against the dictator that's running Lebanon. Basically, Yemen told the U.S. to deny doing them. Well, as we know, they did deny doing them. So we have proof the U.S. government lied about bombing campaigns. Finally, Julian has decided to come out of the corner and start swinging. He has, as many of you probably know, he's made the entire document that has all 250,000 cables in one file that's available on torrent. I don't have a link to it because I haven't found it yet, and I'm probably not going to download it because it's 1.3 gigs. Now the thing is, it's got a 256-bit encryption, which is unbreakable. Now, what he's saying is that if they arrest him and try to trial him on these fake sex crime charges, or they try to charge him with being a terrorist, or arrest him, or something like that, he will give out the encryption key for it. Now, in there is all the stuff that he censored originally to protect certain sources, which means all the people he did protect would become unprotected. This would release everything at once, and you would not be able to stop it after that. He called it his thermonuclear device. Now, this is set up to protect him. If anything happens to him, this key will get out, and there will be no ever stopping the information from getting out. Now, Julian Assange, from the Malice Rebel News to you, do it. Don't even use it as a threat. Just give it to us before something happens to you, and just expose everything all at once. That's the official position of the Malice Rebel News.